Welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about rotational symmetry. So taking a shape and rotating it around a point. So for instance, on this one, if I'm rotating it negative 190 degrees, remember positive is counterclockwise. So this direction is counterclockwise and that's positive. This direction is clockwise and that's negative. So if I'm going to rotate this negative 190 degrees, it means I'm going this direction. It's going to end up being something like this. Now let's get the protractor out and make this exact. So first thing we need to do, just like we did before, I'll label these points A, point B, point C, point D. Okay, and I'm going to put my pencil here, and I'm going to lightly draw through the point that we're rotating around. So just light enough that I can see it, but I don't want it to get confused with the actual lines that I'll be drawing later. And this one, actually, I'm going to need a ruler for that one. So something like this, and C, do the same thing. And D. All right, so on this one, I'm rotating it negative 190 degrees. So when I plot this on here, and I center here, center this piece right here on the dot, and my line is along here and along here, so I've got it all lined up perfectly. I'm rotating in this negative 190 degrees. So again, negative is going clockwise. So negative would be 109 degrees this direction. But obviously my protractor runs out at 180. So instead of going negative 190, I can go positive, turn it the other direction, so that I'm rotating it positive 170. I'm going to rotate it to here. Okay. Now that's not the actual point yet, so this is just a point of reference so far. And now I do the same thing for these other ones. So for this line, line it up so that again, this point where this meets here, and these lie along that line that I drew through point B, rotate that 170. So that's right there. Again, important to note, counterclockwise is positive, clockwise is negative. So instead of going negative 190 this direction, I'm going positive 170 this direction, which is why I'm going from here. Notice my pencil is following counterclockwise, positive 170, which is why I end up there. Okay. And these are actually really close to the same spot, so it makes it a little tricky. But yeah, I'm going to go positive 170 for both of those as well. Okay. Now for there, go ahead and again lightly connect those dots. And be sure to go through them, because the point at which we're eventually going to mark this might be short or farther than where we marked originally. Okay, so now I just got to find the distance. So just like we did with reflection, reflection, it was the same distance on one side of the line as it was on the other. So on this one, we're going to do the same thing. So centimeters. So for point A, using centimeters, looks like it's 4.1234. So I need this to be 4.4 along that same line. Or I could have doubled and made 8.8, however, whatever makes sense to you guys. So now that's the new A prime. Now do the same thing for B. How far is B away from this dot? Oh, it looks really close to right at 6. We're going to call 5.9. So then I come here, same thing, go 5.9. This point right here. Okay, and then C. Ooh, that's right at 5. That's what we're going to call it. Double that. That's at 10. That's C prime. Oh, I forgot to label this. That's my B prime. And then D. It looks like it's at 4.3, 4.35. So go here. 4.35. Right on there. Okay. Now I go ahead and connect these. There we go. And if I did it really well, you can see that this shape rotated around at negative 190 degrees. So again, negative being clockwise. So it went like this, rotate around, and looks like that. Pretty good. I will take that one. All right. So this one, 180 degrees. That one's a little simpler because it's straight across. So again, I'm going to label this A, B, C, and D. And this one, draw through. Oops. B. I'll make a ruler for these, it's a little farther away. And again, I'm making these pretty light. Okay. Now, go ahead and measure. So, A is, it looks like 2.7. So I'll go 2.7 this direction. Right in there. That's A prime. And the nice thing with this one is the reason why I don't have to use my protractor is I know what's the degrees of a straight line. 180 degrees. So if I'm rotating 180 degrees, I just have to go along that straight line. I'll rotate this up a little bit. Translate it up. Huh? You see what I did there? So, yep, this distance I measured again to be, yeah, looks like about 2.7. So came down here, measured about 2.7. Do the same thing for B. The distance is, looks like 2.9. So down here, got 2.9. Or, measure the whole thing and it's 5.8, however you want to do that, just doubling it. C is along this line. That looks like it's 4 point, we'll call it 7. Come down here, 4.7. Oh, I forgot to label this. This is B prime, this is C prime. And D, yep, here we go. D looks like it's 4.7. So we'll make this distance 4.7 as well. Right on there. That's D prime. And I just realized I probably should mark this one too, so I know where to connect them. Oops, not E prime, just E. Call that E. So this distance looks like it's about 3.8, 3.85. So along that, call it 3.8, right around there-ish. Looks pretty good. Now if I did this right, DEA should all line up. You know what? If it's a little off, you just make that dot a little bigger. It's pretty darn good. And then I can go ahead, put these, connect these. Oh yeah, I'll take that. And that is this K rotate 180 degrees around this point. Now this last one, so imagine we got our compass here, and again we're rotating it positive 240. So remember, positive means I'm going counterclockwise. So positive 240 means I'm rotating this counterclockwise, so it's going to be somewhere around here. Well, my protractor doesn't do 240. So if I'm going to rotate that point, oops, if I'm going to rotate that point positive 240, I'm going to, instead of rotating it positive 240, what's 360 minus 240? That's 120. So I'm going to rotate it negative, this is the same thing as negative 120 degrees. So, and remember negative is clockwise. So instead of rotating it 240 this way and ending up somewhere around here-ish, I'm going to rotate it negative 120 this way and still end up in, didn't have that position right. Instead of rotating it 240 this way and ending up something like this, I'm going to rotate negative 120 and end up in a very similar position. Alright, so let's try that. I'm going to try to keep this simple. So I'm going to mark that A, mark this bottom part, B, mark this middle of that, C, tip of the pencil, D, this part, E. That's a pretty good frame of reference. And I'll just make those just a little bit above it. That'll be all right. So, again, just like we did before, I'll use my ruler. Draw a light line through all of these. Good enough. Now we're going to rotate it 120 this direction. So I'm taking this point, let's start with A, I guess. Start with A. So line it up. Oh, we got a glare there, it's a little hard to see. But there we go. So line that all up. So again, I'm rotating it negative, so this is clockwise, so it's going this direction. Okay. So I go lined up. Negative 120. Here. And do the same thing for B. Same thing for E. Well, actually, I'm not going to label that just yet. Well, yeah, actually I can. A prime, B prime. That's not going to be the final spot it's going to be, but E120. C. C and D are going to be basically the same one. D prime and D prime, yep. Okay, now I just got to measure distances. So how far away is A from the point of rotation? It looks like it's about 2.7. So this one's a little trickier because then I've got to measure it. I got to line it up here, going through my point A. So yeah, it's important to label. I said it was 2.7, so that means it's right about there. So yeah, we're going to call that a double prime. That's my final resting spot for A. B is 3.6. 3.6, we'll call it 3.6, yeah. So B is 3.6. So that's right here. So 3.6, so there's 5. Call it right there. There's B double prime. E. This one's a little farther. E is about 7.4, we'll call it. Line that up with E prime, so 7.4 is about there. E double prime. C is how far away? It's about 5.2, we'll call it. So going through C. So again, I'm lining my ruler up with this point and through that dot. So 5.2 we said. Oh, that's actually really close to, yeah, I'm going to leave that in the same spot actually. And D, it's along that same line. So remember, C and D were basically on the same one, so this is just going to be farther out. So D is about 6 point, we'll call that 6.8. So through that again, 6.8. Now let's go ahead and draw this. So I know that AB, and I didn't draw these perfectly, but basically forms this type of thing. Okay. And then goes through C. Oh yeah, this is C double prime, and this is D double prime. So goes through C about like this. Like that. Then there's a little pencil, or this is the tip of the pencil. Something like that. And then E double prime goes through that. There's my point. So, turned out pretty good. So again, I could think of this as rotating this positive 240 degrees around that point, or I can think of it as negative 120, which is what we ended up doing. And there you go. There is rotational geometry. Next we'll do the same thing with the coordinate plane.